Hello, folks. Welcome to another live poetry reading. Tonight we have R.J. Equality Ingram,
Right,
Gail Lipp, Andrew Rahal,
right.
and Patrick Cabello Hansel. As usual, I'll start off reading a couple of poems. First poem is called Carrying the Blame. I get blamed for all that is lost. I try to show how misplaced that acquisition is, but my words fail to acclimate in the mind of the accuser. I read a story about a woman who, after reading some parables, heard a knock on her door. It turned out to be a beggar wanting shelter from the cold, rainy night. The woman figured it was a test and invited him in for food and coffee. But he wasn't who she thought. He was the other one. When things go missing, there is an impatience to find them. Nice things are not said, and I feel bad. I am belittled. I help look, but it doesn't seem to help. I am told I am an idiot. In the underworld, there is a man, once a king, who cheated death and now rolls a rock up a hill to watch it roll down again. Camus was only partially correct. He may have come to a contented acceptance, but let's not call it happiness. I wonder if I met John Milton, he would point to me and say, "It's him. He lost paradise." Ignoring the fact that I am not Adam. I haven't been coaxed by Eve, I believe. People come up to me and tell me to accept responsibility, ask me to recall where I last saw Atlantis, where I put the true fountain of youth. I can only reply, not in Florida. They reply, there's the proof. He did know once. He loses everything. I learned the errors of flippancy. My defense law. The shout. And the next poem I'm going to read is simply called Song. There is a touch of melancholy in this morning sunrise. The crows are quiet. The rabbits are hiding as the dogs are waiting. The air holds fleeting thoughts of suicide, but I don't want to die. At some point, by barking or caws, the quiet will be disrupted. Other noises will abound, unpleasant human sounds. I'm reminded the world is full of explosions, and attempts to do good become soiled. I will have to face the turmoil I live my life to avoid.
Stuff in there that was not.
Our first poet tonight is R.J. Equality Ingram. He works as a bookseller and necromancer for Goodwill Industries of the Columbia Willamette. Their debate collection of poetry, the anthology Nancy Drew, was published by White Stag in 2024. RJ holds a BFA in creative writing from Bowling Green State University and 2 MFAs in creative writing from St. Mary's College of California. Work can be found in issues of Deep Overstock, BB Journal, Miniscript Magazine, and the Citron Review, among others. RJ and their husband live next to a cemetery in Portland, Oregon, with their 2 cats, Phyla and Senator Padme Amidala. Take it away, RJ.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I thought I would start with a couple poems from my debut collection, The Autobiography of Nancy Drew. Most of the poems in this book were written during 30-30 challenges, where I was writing a poem every day for 30 days. And I tend to exclusively write sonnets, so everything I'm going to read tonight is going to be a sonnet. So this is the first poem in the book. Thirst Trap for Miss Piggy. I too am more than a last name and big city office full of transplants from a small town. More than a sequin dress and plastic pearls. More than a chiseled chest dripping with sweat, like a flute of champagne or a lager that smells of Christmas and high school. Remember how good we were at more, how the bottomless burnt coffee never bothered us, or how we always got free drinks when we walked into Grandma's bar. Look at that kid go, a bombshell in a skirt with nails so sharp he could cut his wrists. I'm looking for a pig who can handle this, like it's a lifestyle, not like some leftovers. Thirst Trap for the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. Artists failed you, authors failed you, actors and musicians failed you, stylists failed you, makeup and hair and CGI puppets failed you, the setting and scene and story all failed you. Those suits down in the Hollywood offices, the ones who kept revising and revising, the stacks of notes and edits, even millions of years and years after you're dead, fail you. Archaeologists to this day will fail you. The history books, the illustrations, the high definition expansion box set collection signed by Spielberg and Crichton will fail you. Worst of all, your size and shape and weight. Your whole body fails because evolution failed you. So those are two thirst traps from my book. I'm going to read some newer work too. The next piece is only kind of newer. I really like doing 30-30 challenges, but I also like to mix it up. So I don't always write a new poem every day. Sometimes I do a submission every day. Sometimes I do a line every day. This is one where I worked on the same poem for 30 days. So this is Piranha Plant's patter song. The dandy walks across the stage in profile. His smile twists in a sickling grin, bent upwards after some childhood car accident snuffed out the best in him. The dandy dresses in a suit and tie and tips his hat above a crowded corner. He turns to reveal his smile crooks, and the audience leans in to listen closely. The dandy sings in a fast tempo about his childhood. The boys were mean to him and poked fun at the way he smiled when they slipped off their shirts to sail across a silver sea. The dandy drips a lonely shadow, and as he sings, his voice rings across the stage to reach the children in back rows who want to know why the man in the tattered suit seems happy. He's down on his luck, but sports a carnivorous plant in his lapel, and when no one watches, he whistles show tunes to the fly traps he grows that are for sale for $1 each. And I invite you to ask him what makes their syrup, to those who fly nearby, so sickeningly sweet. What tragic life he must have had to get up every morning and collect fresh meat for his pretty little flowers. Children don't want to stare at men in suits that must have looked good centuries ago. They can't take their eyes off as he feeds more flies and beads of sweat to his tiny charges sprouting out of planter boxes inside a rusted radio flyer. The same little wagon he used to fool around while selling lemonade and trinkets to the parents of his recess bullies. They wished him well as they bought his wares, while slipping silver coins into a tin can. Give the dandy $1 for a fly trap if you have one. And I thought I would do something completely crazy and read some poems that I wrote this week for National Poetry Month. I am working on a tarot deck. A um I'm trying to write a choose your own adventure sonnet for each card in the major arcana. Um, and so since this is a new project, the endings don't really work yet, but I'm gonna still read them. So just pretend like they're cool and they connect to each other because they I only have a couple written because it's only the sixth. So I'm gonna read a couple of those. Hammer space. Roger Rabbit carries his belongings in a bindle like a fool. He left the door to his wife's apartment open as he walked through to Toontown, but turned towards his favorite juice joint for a celery and tomato shrub with carrot puree chasers. Folks talk about the weather changing like it's a bad thing, but no matter the forecast, for Roger, it's always sunshine and rainbows. Every morning is Saturday morning, and every holiday a bottomless spring break. Even the storm clouds that hover above grayscale despots and dumpster divers have cheery little smiles drawn around their gritty cherubic faces. As he skips down cracked pavement, Roger's bindle bounces to a beat audiences can't hear, and ink drips from his last bottle and leaks out and stains the gingham tablecloth he used to pack up his things. Once again, Jessica had enough tricks and sent him out in a hurry. If Roger would pause for a moment and wonder why all of his belongings always fit inside a small bag, he might take stock, not of the life he has, but of the powers he's been blessed with. Not many of us can pull anvils from our pockets or carry around movable holes to push adversaries into blankness. Drawing doors with a line of chalk will get the rest of us nowhere. But for Roger Rabbit, every wall is a welcomed invitation. The trick is that his magic works at its best when Roger forgets about his powers completely. When his head is in the clouds and not on the problem in front of him is when the unforeseen meets the unexpected. So give the goofy rabbit a break and watch the anvils miss him as they fall. Order a round of juice, turn to page 2. Take a cab to the motel, turn to page 3. Okay, and I'm going to end with this last one for the High Priestess. Manscaping. Euphigenia Doubtfire stands in the bathroom in a silk nightgown, staring cross-eyed in the mirror at her reflection like a priestess plucking her eyebrows. With her thumb and forefingers, after giving up, aiming with the dollar store tweezers. Her bare feet step on the trimmings and nail clippings, and the tiny yellowed crescents that get between her toes will be swept into a little pile hours from now after the winnowing, the detritus from the sink onto the floor. Euphigenia Doubtfire feels plucky for once after years of falling backwards through life, almost as if all the shaving and waxing and peeling and primping and pressing pushes the spirit back into her middle-aged midlife dolor. The work she puts into her appearance makes everything else she does throughout the day appear almost effortless, like sifting fine sand from an exotic beach through a sieve, so only the shells remain. Her nightly routine can be rushed down to 20 minutes if she skips the hair beneath her blouse and bloomers, but lately, Euphigenia Doubtfire has found to enjoy the time she spends shearing away what grows deep inside her. Sculptors don't remove stone they disagree with, or hate, or take to the chisel with malice and vengeance, but they chip down to the essential stories the stone tells, and like a sculptor, Euphigenia is now learning to listen. Her body's bumps and bruises under her razor, And when she bleeds, Euphigenia celebrates the blood she shares with her children and rolls up tissues to blot the blood, not because she wants to, but because she's borrowing her brother's brassiere. Euphigenia listens when her blood drips onto the pedestal and into the tub of the retina she had heard her wife swear by and decided to dry. Practice listening to Euphigenia's body hair. Turn to page 4. Take an evening off and shave tomorrow. Turn to page 5. Thank you so much for including me. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else.
Thank you, RJ. Appreciate those poems. Next poet is Gail Lee. Words have been a part of Gail's life since she was young, writing her first short stories in elementary school. Poetry helped keep her sane through her tumultuous teenage years, and prose and journalism were her bread and butter for many years as an adult. The inspiration for life's poetry comes from her deep feelings about life, her faith in God, and the abundant details in nature. Her view of life's gifts and turmoils bleeds onto the page with every word. An electric artist, life has merged words and art together in handmade book structures, pottery, and many more ideas yet to be created. She loves her family and the outdoors where her soul is fed. She feels privileged to live in Minnesota where seasons change and a variety of landforms can be found within a few hours' drive. Besides articles and columns, Life's publications include a biography about her mother titled No Time to Quit, Life in a Broken Package, a fiction piece titled Things Change in the Jack Pond Writer's Block, The Talking Stick, Volume 25, a poem titled Water's Journey in the Talking Stick, Volume 33, a fiction piece titled The Hunt in the Raven's Perch. She also participates in readings of her poetry and short stories. Take it away, Gail.
As the introduction stated, a lot of my poetry has to do with nature or is connected to nature. I chose a collection of poems today that speak about that. So the first one is called No Other Choice. Driving home from church, I never made it to the driveway. Images of trees lined the paths, blasted through the clouds in my mind, exploding the thoughts of should-dos. The woods kept pulling and pulling, sending photos of paths I've walked on, biked on, driven on. Peace so strong, tears filled my eyes. A misty rope hooked my heart, tugged so hard I had no other choice but to follow the call to sit in the woods, listen, feel, lay in the grass, touch the trees, let the sun melt the insecurities off my face. The car led me to a conservation area, a refuge, a place with paths winding through the woods, soothing sounds of water pushing forward, wind and sun dancing through the trees as leaves pirouette joyfully, a place to connect more fully with the earth. Walking barefoot along the leaf-covered path, the cool, dark earth shared its energy. Sun rays speckled the ground as they flowed down through the trees, leaves filtering out hate, violence, fear. Invisible hands of acceptance, of connection surrounded me, a river of energy that flows through everything, linking us all, trees, people, earth, animals, a calming, healing energy gifted from God. So some of the poems that I'm reading tonight are in a book that is a collection of poetry being published by Finishing Line Press that comes out next month. Some of them aren't. So the next poem I'm reading is called Escape. Sitting at my computer, piles of should-dos growing like leaf piles in my backyard, everything falling at once. Don't they know it would be easier if they took turns dropping? Yet they keep falling until the first should do gets buried. The moisture of priorities flattening it down. But which is important? The top leaf or the bottom? The pile gets stirred, the must rises. The pile gets stirred, a different to-do rises to the top. Too many, too fast. I kick the pile, let the leaves fly, and walk away. Now, the next poem I'm reading is called A Moment Stopped. This one was it was an actual experience right after I voted. So, water droplet imprints on my glasses, the sky swollen with dark gray clouds. I smile. Inside my heart dances as mist washes away the drabness and consistency of life. The slat sigh resistance as I step onto the boardwalk. Ripples on the lake slap each other as they run away from raindrops. Drought-exposed, thick, soft muck lines the bank. Colorful leaves create underwater paintings. A mallard and his mate swim closer, then away, then closer, looking for food, unable to decide if I am a threat. A small muskrat swims away from the silt plume created by the spring rushing to feed the bathtub lake, a hollow fallen tree his home. Unexpected pleasure amidst the busy. Accepting the gift, I stop. All right. So the next one is called A Sojourn in Peace. Crawling from the tent, unrolling my body, arms stretching wide, like a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. It's daybreak. Gray fog envelops the woods, hiding the sunrise and the morning eyes of curious critters questioning my appearance. Being here, among the woods, away from everyday life is healing, a sojourn in peace, in self-discovery. Mist washes my face as I slice through the fog, releasing stress, trauma, and responsibilities into the empty space that follows me, with them gradually being stuffed into the gray envelope and mailed to tomorrow. The cloaked river, so near, so far away, gentle sounds of laughing water, the only proof of its existence. Accepting the water's invitation to become part of this splendor, I slide the kayak down the bank as the sun begins to kiss the fog away. The blue water takes on an ethereal look, cattails and brush lining the stream banks, purple and brown decay filtering the edges. Gliding silently through the calm water, absorbing the quiet before the noise of the day, I wonder, am I escaping from or moving toward something? The next one is kind of a memory one. It's a little bit different. It's called Spring and Summer Smells. I love the way spring smells, the sweet euphoria of crabapple blossoms and apple blossoms and lilacs and lily of the valley. Smells so intoxicating, they leave a perfect taste in your mouth. My grandmother's yard was filled with fruit trees, apples, pears, cherries, mulberries, and flowers, especially lilies. Not lily of the valley, the big white lilies, her namesake. We gave her one nearly every year. Long ago, when she was alive, we visited often in early summer after spring smells turned pungent. Hot mowed grass, marigolds, zinnias, wheat field dust. Though the lily blooms hung on the longest, leaving hints of sweetness floating in the air as summer blooms took their place. I remember sitting on a chair in the pea gravel driveway, turning the wheel of a cherry pitter, watching the cherries roll into the bowl. She was inside canning and freezing along with my mother, picking through the pitted cherries, pulling those too flawed to preserve. Those we ate, as well as lots of cherry cobbler. Other grandchild chores included climbing trees to pick pears and apples if we visited later in the summer. That was fun. I miss the smells of Grandma and Grandpa. Lavender, scolts, snuff cans, lilies. Any of these smells take me back to a place of comfort. Okay. The next one is called The Quiet Time Between. The balcony door creaks open, letting the cool breath of morning air filter into the bedroom. Silence fills the backyard as its inhabitants wait for the sun to rise. It is early, the quiet time between the skittering and rummaging of night critters and the awakening of the birds and squirrels. My favorite part of the day, where time stops, if only for a moment, before the rest of the world wakes up. I need that moment. Time sometimes evaporates like the morning breeze, filtering through the balcony screen door. Important things like writing, playing, sharing take a back seat to the functional, monotonous chores of the day. In that quiet moment, one can reflect without ambient noise and distraction on that which is good in the world. The quiet allows for decisions to be made and growth to happen. All right, that's all I've got for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Next up, we have Andrew Rahal. Andrew's chapbook, No New Wilderness, was selected for the Ronne Aurora series, Seven Kitchens Press, 2021, and other poems that have appeared in Bath Mag, Great River Review, Poetry Ireland Review, Interim, Willow Springs, and elsewhere. He holds a PhD from the Seamus Haney Center at Queen's University, Belfast, and has received support and awards for his writing from the North Carolina Writers Network, the Center for Book Arts in New York City, Poetry Ireland, the European Association of American Studies, and the Arts Council of Northern Ireland. He currently lives in the Cape region of North Carolina with his family and teaches English. Let's hear Andrew.
Hi, good evening, Ron, and thank you for hosting this event. Gonna start off with a poem called Sharkling. Most of the poems I'll be reading tonight are either about sharks or lullabies. I don't know. A little bit of both, but this is Sharkling from a collection that I've been working on. The barge left the marina to lay the pipes and widen the river mouth, and years of sediment began to pump out. When the dredge pulled out before winter became one long battering, the channel was half dug, the budget sucked dry from eras of log jams, buried boats and tires, the rod of a sunken dock dislodged. All season, the eddies gathered in the shallow hem of the tide spun the shed teeth of sharks, seal pups, and socked in fog. The fishways scoured by seabirds, idle eagles coasting back toward their cliff. And where did you go? I survived off a plump of seals on a fresh berm in runoff and river rock and watched squall after squall test the jetty. The rain pounded and the wind sloughed it off until the barge finally left the channel, buried alive for the mouth to shift and sort. The next poem I'm going to read is called Trolling Lullaby. Trolling Lullaby. Dragging this fathomless bag of lullabies downstream to the mouth of the busy river, this bag tossed in your general direction and emptied at the foot of your bed. It smells off, doesn't it? Whistled in, pent up, belt out, overtired, whimsied into this pea-soaked bedsheet of music. I never expect before I dim down your nightlight that America is lullabied Tacoma in custody and zip-tied, questioned, and those fevered eyes, pale lips, what ifs of a heart beating too fast. The flutter and blur gone like dreams or lullabied till soft and tender and just fall off the bone of mother god insomnia, and I am left fumbling through this clanging bag of lullabies and forge the night music and disappear the older brothers you've snuck downstairs to hang with. So I drag the seasick lullabies in sacks back to bed, from the ocean to the bed, the ocean to your other ocean, to the deserted songbed of salmon skin and plastic meat and bones. And I row, row, row the dredge, drifting like a coat over the down tree and waterfall and finalement in a cribbed dream. We hold otter hands and float on our backs, cold swim, hunt swells and seasonal runs, and sing the ocean, rocking up to berms and laying these drained infant runes in the sweet froth of sleep above our heads, or the cloud-like sediment in gravel beds. The next poem I'm going to read is called Lullaby from the Shark Nursery. And it has an epigraph which reads, "We're kindred souls, but different enough that my soul has to eat your kind of soul." And I saw that scrawled maybe 15 years ago above a urinal in Nashville, Tennessee. Lullaby from the Shark Nursery. The song is more like a glide, an undulate, a maneuver of songs incarnate. Jump them alone in the midnight pond, run them out of kelp jungles, shake their beds out, draw them a line, make them draw it, then erase that too. The song is more like saying the ocean's edge is one colossal shark crossing sign. Lure them in softly like the almond-shaped curl of a wave forming out the back in a staccato green backlight, then dumping, chandeliering over cold reef. And the lullaby is more like a frenzy of salted bellies, warring offspring, cold cartilage as tender as it gets, and the bite always sweeter, loving, more lovelier, if it could be remembered. The lullaby is more like the promise of the sharks that they keep, the crossing for miles and the miles to go. The next poem I'm going to read is called Shark Crossing. Before I was a shark, I only saw the fish scales, scarred fins on the seabed, caught on the line, or the whale fall ship struck, the scent and trail, nuzzling out an octopus, vandalizing kelp beds, sauntering deep seas, going about her day to day, rolling and shaking it unconscious. Before, I was a child prancing around the living room with my shark tooth necklace and a thin black string around Summer's neck. I was getting to the local pool and back, sleek and unscathed. Before I woke up with our children nuzzled between us, I was yawning into the pillow all night and sucking the cold air to my back teeth. It was the day after Valentine's, and I just bit into a hard, dark chunk of chocolate, which always triggers that series of sharp pains at the nerves exposed just below the tooth, and the combination always of the sweetness and cold air taps a root, always well below the surface. The next poem I'm going to read is called Island Hopping. And I probably, yeah, Island Hopping. There is a reference to a place called Finnegy, which is a town just outside of Belfast. kind of like a suburb maybe of Belfast in Northern Ireland. It's 1885. My future great-great-grandfather renounces the Queen, and I am a certified and lapsed All-American. He leaves Belfast after the trees and potatoes are cleared. He sends money home, or he never sends money home. I'm still weighing the difference. It's 1978. Kiss me, I'm Irish are the green words on the button my grandmother pins to her lapel in campaign season. It is a working definition. It's 1995. She uses a knife and fork to cut her napkin. Over the course of dinner, this becomes less and less funny. I learned to redact some memories and accept the oblivion of others. It's 2020. Our apartment is in a high rise in Finnegy. It's on the list of buildings to be demolished, the difference between a timer and a clock. From our balcony, the disappeared oaks and the rivers stretch out. It's time they grow together. I'm watching this in love on the couch. My son is in his high chair. The plastic tray separates us. On a clear day, I can see the shipping channel. I can almost tell him which way the ocean liners are heading. I thought I would not have to make this up anymore. And thank you. I'll pause there. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Those were great.
Yeah.
Our next poet is Patrick
Boy.
Bello Hansen. She is the author of the poetry collection The Devouring Land and Quitting Time and Breathing in Minneapolis. He has published poems and prose in over 90 journals, including Cradnog, Iowa Review, North Dakota Quarterly, Waterstone Review, and Lunch Ticket. Nominated 3 times for a Pushcart Prize, he has won awards from the Loft Literary Center and Minnesota State's Arts Board. His novellas, Searching and Returning, were serialized in 33 issues of the Alley News. He is the founding editor of the Phoenix of Phillips, a literary journal by and for the most diverse community in Minneapolis. Take it away, Patrick.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for hosting and for inviting me, and thanks to the other poets, and happy National Poetry Month to everybody. I'm going to start off with a baseball poem. I went to the opening game on Thursday. It happened to be my birthday, and this reminded me of a baseball game I took my daughter to, who's now 30, she's gonna be 34. But when she was in high school and wasn't really into school, but she loved Derek Jeter of the Yankees, and so this is a baseball poem called Spring Love. The flare is falling, falling in no man's land north of 3rd, as A-Rod, Jeter, and Matsui converge like planets, portending some great event. Will it drop? Will it drop? And my Natasha is rising with the crowd, not to look at the ball, but to see Jeter. The only book she's read this year that she didn't have to is by him. And the Twins fans are yelling, fall in, fall in. And the Mexicanos from La Liga Hispana de Baseball, Yankees fans all, from Guerrero and Puebla and Morelos, are yelling, catch it, catch it. And at the last second, as Matsui dives and snares the ball in his glove, all the air is pulled out of the Metrodome. But my Natasha shouts, I love you, Derek! And there is a smile on his face as he returns to shore, a man accustomed to having things land in the right way. I'm going to read a couple from my latest book called Breathing in Minneapolis. It came out last year, but it's set in 2020 and 2021 with all that was going on then, COVID, the murder of George Floyd, the burning of Lake Street. I live just a couple blocks off Lake, the attack on immigrants, and the election and the crazy politics, which we still have, unfortunately. And so we have a little second floor balcony, and we have a tiny dwarf lilac, and it blossomed late that year. So I'd go out in those terrible nights, and I could smell the tear gas, and I could smell the smoke, and I could hear the sirens, and I could smell a little bit of the lilac just coming through that. So this is called Lilac Time, Minneapolis, May 2020. And it's after a poem by Roy McBride. It's lilac time, and the family dollar is on fire. Helium balloons and sippy cups, greeting cards 2 for $1, Batman birthday napkins, and miracle floor polish dance in the flames. It's lilac time. Purple, pink, blue, mauve fingers curled into a fist. Flowers laid end to end on bloodied concrete. Lilac bruise, lilac skin, the lilac spin of blue and red sirens hurting into the night. It's lilac time, and a boy and a girl sleep under their beds to avoid the shots. Mothers, fathers patrol the blocks stained with curfew. Lilacs, my favorite flower, the one I brought each year as a gift to sweet Mother Mary, as the church filled with girls in pastel dresses and boys in pastel shirts. Little Jesus so proud of his mom. It's lilac time, tear gas shrouding the streetlights, non-lethal projectiles carving holes in protesters' eyes, knee to the neck, lilacs, 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 neck, neck, neck. It's lilac time, the burnt aroma of breath scattered like blackened snow. It's lilac time. Step out onto your stoop, smell the flowers, wash your eyes with milk. Breathe. I can't breathe. Breathe. It's lilac time, and the blossoms barely hold the world. I'm going to read another one from this book. For 35 years, my day job was as an inner city Lutheran pastor in the South Bronx in Philly and then in the Phillips neighborhood. And in 2020, when COVID hit and we didn't know what happened, I went to anoint a person who was dying. He ended up dying the next day. This is right when the thing started, and we had no idea what it was. So this is called Anointing Charlie in the time of COVID-19. Double latex gloves, face mask, clothes I will take off on my front porch and step wearily into the shower. I have been called to bless the living one into his death, to pour oil squeezed from the seed growing out of a crack in the world's sidewalk of grief. I hold his hand. I pour wine into little paper cups, the kind we used to get a sugar cube with a red splash of polio vaccine, this disposable chalice that cradles earth's sorrows. I drop the wager of God into his thin hand. We pray the old prayer. With no right but that of friendship, I take his face as a burnt offering, his skin soft as a rubber doll, the kind you chew on in your crib. I thumb the oil over his brow, speak these old words, these bruised names of God. All is forgiven. The air in the room hums in an unknown tongue. And I'm going to read a couple out of this book, The Devouring Land. I don't know if you can see that. That photograph is a photograph of 2 members of our congregation. She's from Chile and her husband's from Brazil, and it was taken by a 10-year-old girl in her photography class. 10-year-old girl who now she's a dreamer, who's a DACA recipient, who now is who's the first person in her family to go to college and graduated from St. Ol, and but still is in limbo because we don't welcome immigrants here. The first part of the book is all about immigrants, and many of them, I changed the names obviously, and this is a family in our congregation. It's called Keep Moving. We belong to the dust. The dust belongs to no one. Ask the bones of Domingo, who crossed into Arizona with his 6-year-old son, walking through the mountains, avoiding the desert snakes and eyes burning a hole through the sky. On the 3rd day, they ran out of water, and on the 4th, Domingo began to run out, his skin tightening, his eyes wandering through heaven and earth, the heaven you make in your mind when flesh begins to die, skin for skin, bone to its bone, the heart's fierce surrender. There comes a moment in time when the mind can accept what the body knows. We belong to the sun. The sun belongs to no one. Domingo placed his right hand on his son's head, drew a crooked cross, commanded him to go on. The son obeyed with his feet. The last order of the living is the first wish of the dead. Keep moving. And let's see if I have time for 2 more. I know I leave time for 1 more. As I mentioned, I was a pastor in the South Bronx, and we all took our cars to get fixed at this broken down place called Frank's Auto Repair, who was just an amazing repairman. But if you saw his shop on the end of this dead end street and dirty, and you would say, "I'm taking my car there," but he was turned out to be just great. So this is called Frank's Auto Repair. The dirtiest damn dog in the South Bronx lies in front of the best damn mechanic in the South Bronx. All the pastors go there. The dry drunk, the sex addict, the one whose church is about to crucify him, the one who can't stop throwing up at the altar during her first trimester. They all know Frank, and Frank does right by them. The dog lies right in the driveway you pull your piece of shit car into. Every bit of grease that was splashed around yesterday has landed on his coat. He takes no more breaths than are absolutely necessary. He is dirt and bereavement and luck rolled into one body. The dirtiest damn dog doesn't complain when you pull in, doesn't snap or refuse to move. He takes his time getting to his feet, shedding off the air that has coagulated around the dirt that has coagulated upon the grease upon his coat, turns and walks to a corner and lies down again. Frank always asks, "What do we have now?" He takes your key and he writes your phone number on a scrap of a big calendar 2 years old and tells you he'll call you. If he can't fix it, it's on the house. I asked him once if the dog had a name, and he told me that it did, but for the life of him, he couldn't remember what it was. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Patrick. And thank all the folks reading tonight. Thank Valerie Lockhart and Minneapolis Television Network for putting this on. Thanks all of you for listening. The next Facebook Live reading will be Saturday, May 10th at 2 p.m. It celebrates my book being published, Parkinson's and Other Denials. It'll be on Facebook Live for those in the Twin Cities. It'll also be in person at the old town hall in Bloomington, Minnesota. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.